Alright guys, let's use Bootstrap to make this look a little bit nicer. The first thing is, you see this guy up here, this bar, this should really be centered with the main content. So let's first take a look at that. I'm going to shrink down my home folder and I'm going to open the header view of the dashboard includes. Okay, so first of all, we have another HTML5 tag that we kind of want to get rid of because we don't need it, and I'm just going to call it a div, and the closing tag should also be a div. So what we have is a navbar inner. What I'm going to do is just put a number 1 here and a number 2 here, and this is going to show me just real quick what's happening. So 1 is outside of it and 2 is the actual bar. So what I want to do is, inside of this bar is say div class equals container. Remember how that kind of spreads things out how we want it? Let me make sure I got my tabs right. Okay, so take a look at that, and hopefully I got that right. It looks like the container did not take effect. Let's see, this is the container right here. It looks like the navbar container has a width of auto, and I do not like that one bit. So div class of navbar. I'm going to test out what happens when I delete this and refresh, and that looks really ugly. So I will go ahead and leave that there, and I'll overwrite the navbar container. Oops, let me close this home view out. So back to our style CSS, I'll say .navbar .container will be width 940 pixels, margin of 0 auto. Okay, try to make it look a little nicer. There we go. Now it's lined up, and the logout, I want this guy to be all the way to the right, so I'm going to try another trick, part of the scaffolding, and this li, I'll try class equals pull dash right, and go ahead and refresh, and that didn't want to work, so I'll try it on the anchor tag. Let's see how stubborn these are. Pull right. Looks like it doesn't want to work. It's because the size of this nav is not very big. So if this has a class of pull right, what I can try is to say width equals 100%. Well, let's say 50%. Okay, so if that's 50% and it's still not pulling to the right, I'll try to add it on here. It never seems to work out for me with that. So let's try once more. This guy, ul nav, so navbar.nav, and I'll just say navbar.nav width will equal 60%. We could actually do a fixed width. I'll leave it at 60%, and I'll cut this guy out and paste him back here. Back to the li, refresh, and it doesn't look like it wants to work. Sorry guys, don't know what I'm doing wrong, and this is just simple CSS, so it's not a big deal. So I don't get off on a rabbit trail. Let's just see. We have our footer down here, and it looks like we're going to need a margin top on the footer, but you can't see it on my screen, but this bar is touching those items. So let me move style over. Footer, let's say margin top equals 50 pixels. Okay, and that just keeps this little area cleaner. So let's start with these create buttons. Let's find out where they are. Dashboard view. What do we have in here? We have a submit button. So I'm going to say class equals button. And remember, in Bootstrap we have a lot of options for buttons, so if I go to base CSS buttons, we can do whatever color we want. I'll just do I think a green one. And where was I here? And I'll just say button success. And to stay consistent, I'm going to want to do the same thing on this button down here. Okay, I'll go here and refresh. So we have some nice little create buttons. So this is where things might get a little tricky, and I might split this video into two because there's kind of a lot to do here. For one, this form just does not look good. When I look at it, it really needs some padding or the create on a separate line. So let's take a look at this. The form right here, it has no class, so I'll say class equals form-horizontal. And I'm not actually using the Twitter Bootstrap classes, so I'm not sure that's going to do anything just yet. It did line up the button, so let me go to the CSS of Bootstrap, base CSS, and forms, and they give you some examples if you go through them. And you could really pick out whatever you prefer. I'm looking for something in particular. Just a basic text input. Looks like I pretty much got it how I want. Oh, this is kind of cool. Let's add this on. I'm just going to copy this code, and if you can't find it, don't worry, you can type it along with me. So I'll go in here and paste it. So to start out, we have a div class input append. Our next item will be looks like a span 2 and a button. So we're just going to take these two items, cut them out, and paste them in here. Let's see what happens. Refresh, and that looks cool because it's kind of attached to it. Now for the notes, don't worry, we'll fix the padding on that. Let's go to the notes, and the form class, we'll say form horizontal. That means left to right. Okay, and it lines up the little create button and all that. I kind of want to put this guy below the note title. So without further ado, let's go ahead and copy this input append once more and paste them in there, close them out, and I'm going to take the submit button and put them right here. We're not done yet, but I like to see what I'm doing, so I'll refresh, and we have create right there, and I want this content to go below here. So I believe this is floating, so let's say div class equals clear fix and end the div. Clear fix is part of Bootstrap, and it clears floats for us. So there it is right there, and I'm not sure how to make it look a lot better, but it looks kind of nice just like real simple like this. So if I type test and hit tab, it goes to create, and that's frustrating because I want to type test, hit tab, and then go here. So let's change the tab index. So I'll say tab index equals 1, and then down here tab index is 2, then for the submit button tab index is 3. Okay, so test tab, create. Then we can use our keyboard to do all this stuff. Okay, so next let's work on the padding around this form here. So this has an ID of create note, this has an ID of create to do. So we have these IDs to work with, and let's just do it that way. So what I'm going to do is just make a new section called form creates, and I'll say to do create comma note create, because they should be consistent. So let's say padding is 5 pixels by 0 by 5 pixels by 5 pixels. And if you're wondering what this is doing, think of it going clockwise. It's starting at 12. So this is top, right, bottom, left. Okay, that's just a shorthand way to write it. And refresh. And it looks like these did not obey us. Create to do. I did them wrong. So create note. And refresh. And now that's tabbed over a little bit nicer and cleaner. Before we get too busy with this, I think I'll cut this one off and then we'll continue in the next video.